Thank you for clicking on this Fun with Pete and Sherry video. I'm your host, Mr. Julian, and welcome to Last Chance Scotch Reviews, and I'm calling this, oh, hi Tipsy, Last Chance Scotch Reviews because this is simply my last chance to review these particular scotches before I consume them. So there you go. First is one I started and promised I would do as an adjunct to my last Jura video, if I ever got a hold of. This is Jura Superstition, and I reviewed before Jura 16-year-old and Jura Prophecy. Jura Prophecy is the heavily peated version. Jura 16-year-old, which they call Juroc's Own, is very good, very complex whiskey. This one, Jura Superstition, I know only a few things about. It says smoke and spice right here on the bottle. One is supposed to pour it with one's hand covering the ankh, or else it's bad luck. And it is made from a mix of ages of whiskey, 13-year-old and 21-year-old, I believe. And it isn't all that great. And spoiler alert. But let's have a taste anyway. So the faint peaty smell, which would be, reminiscent of, think about the level, a little less peaty than the Highland Park, maybe around the range of an Oban. And in the background, sort of the soft fruits, so you can apple, banana. Definitely some smoke. Sort of also, well, really that's about it on the nose. Go in deeper. Salty oak, that kind of boathouse flavor I sometimes refer to in a scotch. And maybe a little bit of salted peanut. Smoke is very pronounced on the finish. The soft fruits that you're looking for don't really pronounce themselves that much on the palate. Really, the smoke lingers longer, and a sort of spiciness from the peat. So I don't mean to give the impression that this is a bad scotch. Just that it for some reason it doesn't have the really interesting depth of the 16-year-old, and of course it lacks the intensity of the Prophecy. So anyway, that's about all I have to say about the Jura today. Let's move on. Oh, so by the way, I give this whiskey a 7 out of 10. And this, of course, I'm excited because this is a Balvenie I have not reviewed. This is Balvenie Peated Cask. The story of this scotch is it used to be called Balvenie Islay Cask, but of course the Scotch Whisky Association didn't like them having the word Islay on the bottle when it was not an Islay whiskey. So clearly, though, they are using an Islay cask, which means after they gave the whiskey, or did they give it an initial? Yes. First, it was aged in normal Balvenie bourbon cask, and then it was transferred to a casks that they got from Islay that had been used for heavily peated whiskey. After that, they mixed it with easy cats. You notice you don't hear the dogs anymore. So, as it says on the bottle, this was then married to Balvenie finished in New American Oak. Now, I love New Oak, but I'm not sure that the marriage was necessary in this case. I think I would have taken the Balvenie right out of the peated cask and put it in a bottle. It would have been strongly peated that way. In this way, they came up with a whiskey that is merely lightly peated, even less than the Jura. Let's have a taste. Sorry, the just terrible allergies here. Still, a lot of the Balvenie notes come through. Just the light honey candy sweetness, which truly mixes quite well with the light smoke. All right, let's give it the final test. So the New Oak and the smoke is making this a different sort of Balvenie. This is sort of a strong bracing Scotch, not a sort of smooth, inviting Scotch. It's not to say it's not good, but it's not the typical Balvenie. And one thing that's extremely noticeable is a pretty heavy metallic taste. And that's not necessarily to the good. So, what can I tell you? This is a good Scotch, but it is not the best Balvenie Scotch. Further on in the finish, I don't know, there's almost like a smoked meat. The metallic kind of turns into something a little nicer. People say I don't spend enough time nosing my whiskey, but I do. I like to nose it after it's already in my mouth. You don't try this just opening your mouth after a nice sip of whiskey and breathing very slowly. It's really where you get the deepest sense of the flavor, I feel. I give the Balvenie peated cask a 7.8 out of 10. I seem to have finished it though. And now I've got something really special. I have never reviewed a Glenrothes, and and this is not the usual expression. This is not an uncommon expression. This is one of their expressions that they go by year. So this is distilled in 1998, bottled in 2009. Let's see what we have in here, shall we? Vanilla, first thing that hit, and then peach in abundance. People say that does nothing. Yes it does. What I'm doing is I'm getting some whiskey up on the sides of the glass. That's going to create a faster evaporation, so I'm going to get a better smell from it. You don't want to bruise Scotch like this, like you would with a wine. You never do that with a Scotch. It's not necessary. Okay, deeper in, add to the nose, great marzipan nuttiness as well. And now let's give this the final test. Those of you who know me can see this in my eyes. I'm in love. This is amazing. This is beautiful. This is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful Scotch. So turn the camera off. I'd like to be alone with the Scotch. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, God. As smooth as breathing the air, and as subtly flavored as almond milk. And all the flavors I mentioned, and in addition to apricot, so apricot, peach, soft fruits, marzipan, vanilla, butter, but something beyond all of those, just a nameless flavor of just you associate with just the most excellent scotches, just the flavor of excellent Scotch. If you don't, if that doesn't mean anything to you, then don't drink this whiskey. This isn't Scotch 101 anyway. Oh dear Christ, that's good. Glenrothes 1998 gets a 9.5. 9.5. I know I said I was going to be doing bourbons. I'm getting back to the bourbons, but I started with Scotch, and as I said, I had to review these Scotches because they're not going to last that much longer. And they're this though, I just can't say enough about it. Get one of these. If you don't like it, let me know. I'll buy it from you. I'm just kidding. I won't do that. Alright, I want to show you something before I go. Another Scotch. I'm not going to drink this one. In fact, this Scotch that I'm going to put before you is so good, I'm going to actually, I'm going to cleanse the area of the spirits of common Scotch before I even set it out. Here it is, a name to strike envy into the hearts of all true Scotch lovers. This is my first Brora. Now, Brora is a distillery that existed from, the early 19th century through 1983, when it was closed and mothballed forever. Up until 1968, it was called Clynelish. Not to be confused with the distillery that is currently called Clynelish. But it was after that period that sort of the golden age of Brora really began. You will see if you read on Wikipedia that it was for a period of time only in the early 70s that they made a heavily peated whiskey. But I've had a Brora from 1976, and it was peaty enough to make my eyes water. Not only peaty, but sulfurous, almost beyond description, like sucking a spent cartridge. And yet, despite that description, beautiful and amazing. I can't say why, it just was. The 1971 version are now going for $40,000 a bottle. This is an independent bottling, Chieftains. Yes, 26 years old and distilled in 1981. And it's hard to get a Brora now anywhere. You can get them online. You can buy them at Whiskey Exchange, Master of Malt, but you pay a lot of money for it. You'll probably do better at auction, which is where I got this one. And this I intend to be only my first. Perhaps when I have a dozen or so of these, I'll feel wealthy enough to review one for you. We'll see. Until next time, keep drinking. Fucking cats. I lost my place.